Okay.
Absolutely. Shirley from Waitrose writes in, and she asks, Steve, you make us proud every time you're featured on The Ellen Show. We are always very proud, so keep up the good work. How did you end up on The Ellen Show?
You have a little piece of this story. It's so funny because people will call and say, hey, is there any way you could share this idea with Ellen? I've got this great idea.
Because you're like this.
Yeah, right. Let me let people know. When I see Ellen, it's when I step out. Okay, I don't see her for rehearsal. I don't see any of those kinds of things. What a wonderful person. She wants everything to be a surprise to her, and the reaction that you see on camera. So how did she see it? Her producers actually watched some of the videos here from 9 News. And so the secret is be visible. If you want to be on a show like that, just be visible, and people will see you. And you can imagine how many ideas they get pitched all the time. And so our Mentos and Diet Coke, remember that little thing in the backyard?
Remember
that little tiny thing? You know that you have over 2 million views on that particular video on a little thing called YouTube.
Little thing.
Yeah, it's no big deal at all. But that's it. Now, that's how I do it. And I've been very, very honored that she and her team have invited me back. We're working on one more for May, we think. So that's good.
Course.
That's good.
And I think Sean has a question about an experiment you did on The Ellen Show.
Hi, I'm Sean Haley, and I was wondering how cornstarch in water solidifies when under sudden burst of pressure.
Talking about when we put the 2,500 boxes of cornstarch in a tub about this big and then ran across it. So cornstarch in water it's called a non-Newtonian fluid, which means that it doesn't behave with normal Newton laws, so to speak, Newtonian laws. When you take cornstarch and water and you put it together, when you exert pressure on that, it's kind of like you walking on the beach with sand. You literally squish the water out of the sand, and it becomes solid for just a second, and then you settle down into it. And that's what's happening. Under pressure, you literally are squeezing the water out of those starch molecules that are there, and it solidifies for just a second and then turns right into a liquid. So under pressure, solid. Normally, you change temperature and you get a solid or a liquid, but this is under pressure, so it's called a non-Newtonian. Goofy putty is that way. Silly putty is that way. So it's just one of those great things. That's one of those things that we tell people, don't try at home, try at a friend's home. Especially when they're on vacation. So you just fill up the it's just a great little thing. You know, the greatest amount of email I've ever gotten are people, when I forgot years ago on a program that I was on many, many years ago, and didn't tell people don't pour the cornstarch and water down the drain. If you pour the cornstarch and water down the drain, it stays in the P-trap that's right there. Then you get to hire a plumber to come and hacksaw the P-trap right out. It's an exciting thing. You get to meet a new plumber and pay a bill that you didn't even know was right around the corner.
A lot more than that little box of cornstarch.
Yes, yes, so that's the answer.
Now, Camille does have a question about this experiment that we referred to briefly. This is an infamous experiment, but it was a big sensation on the Internet.
My name is Camille Morales, and I was wondering what would happen if you performed the Coke Mentos explosion inside your mouth.
I had to actually answer this. The nice people who produce Mentos, it's a company called Profetti Van Mel, has been very, very nice with some of the products that we've created and so forth. And so I had to answer this question for them because there was this hoax or email thing that came out of Brazil that somebody died by putting Mentos and Diet Coke in their mouth, and they exploded and the whole thing. And there's a lot of funny things that are on the Internet with, just little jokes and so forth. Yep, absolutely. If you drink Coke, the way this whole thing works is you're just pulling carbon dioxide out of the Coke. And what's amazing about Mentos is they have these tiny little pits, like craters, like the surface of the moon. So the carbon dioxide comes running to those little imperfections or pits that are there, and that's what releases the carbon dioxide. So we're not making carbon dioxide, we're just releasing it. If you drink a whole bunch of Coke, going down into your stomach is releasing that carbon dioxide. That's why you burp. So if you were to eat Mentos and Diet Coke, nothing. Right? Nothing at all.
But you might have good breath.
If you put it in your mouth and some Mentos, you might get a little foaming action or whatever. But, it's just funny how that worked. Is that I wasn't the first person to play with the whole idea of Mentos and Diet Coke. It just happened to hit at the right place at the right time. And you getting wet was the secret to that whole success.
Oh, that was the secret.
Because if you and I had just stood out there and done this and it went up, it would have been like, I've done it on television up to that point in 2005. I'd done it on 4 times. And on network television once. Nobody cared. But the moment you got wet, the blog post that went out that night was news anchor gets soaked, Mentos experiment sets new record. Because you got wet 3 times and then you had to do the 5 o'clock news, somehow they picked that up and it ran.
It's fun. It's fun to watch anchors.
Yes, you are the greatest person. I owe you many, many, many dinners.
You to get all that Coke out.
You were great.
That's okay. So the question question we hear most often is, what does Steve do for his real job? We see him on 9 News, we see him on Ellen, but what is your real job?
The banker often asks that as well.
Yeah,
what do you do? And the person who holds the
exactly?
mortgage and so forth. Well, I started as a teacher, so I came out of college, graduated from the University of Colorado at Boulder with a chemistry degree, and was going to go teach. And one thing led to another, and there's some changes going on in Colorado schools. And I started doing a program in Colorado schools where I'd visit schools. PTOs and PTAs would bring me in, and this was the early 1990s. And out of that kind of grew this business, this speaking business. And at the same time, I was in the Cherry Creek schools, and a principal said to me, come and be certified, alternatively certified as a teacher. That was over at Willow Creek Elementary. And so they were very, very nice to make me kind of a quasi-teacher on special assignment, and I was at Willow Creek for 13 years. Great principal by the name of Dr. Dina Tarleton said, you really become good because of the teacher next door. She said, you're not a very good teacher yet, so what I need to do is surround you by excellence, and it'll start to rub off. And in 13 years, some of the greatest classroom experiences came from that. Right now, I'm over in Littleton Public Schools working with their teachers and working kind of as a consultant and working on a strategy to make science fair a little bit more meaningful for those kids.
And you teach teachers as well.
And that's the primary job is half of it is training workshops all over the country for teachers, so our hands-on science workshops. Then I run a science company called Spangler Science, and we sell toys, and we invent science toys and so forth. So if you go online to SteveSpanglerScience.com, or even your local Target or Walmart or any of those, they'll carry in the toy section some of our kits that are Steve Spangler Science kits.
They're very popular, very popular.